Yo, yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Wednesday live class. For those of you who are new here, every Wednesday, Kate and I go live with a class to teach nutrition coaches like you how you can build a full-time online nutrition coaching business that you are proud of, that you fill with clients who you love, and that allows you to make this thing that you're so passionate about a career. And for those of you who are new here and don't know Kate or me, both of us went from side hustling, working as nutrition coaches on the side, to building successful businesses where we employed other coaches and other people. We really went from side hustle struggle to full-time success. And since then, over the last 3 years, we have taught hundreds of coaches just like you how to do the same. So without further ado, today, we're going to be diving into a topic we've been going over for the last 3 weeks. We're going to be talking about borrowed audiences, why they're important, and we're going to be answering some of your most pressing questions about borrowed audiences. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time today and you're not really sure what we mean by borrowed audiences, I'll give you a quick overview and then I'm going to turn it over to Kate. So borrowed audiences is our cleanest lead generation strategy that we know of, and it gives you the most leverage, meaning 1 ounce of your effort is pounds of result. Whereas what we've seen is that the typical lead generation strategy being taught is that you've got to get into Facebook groups or, find other influencers on Instagram. You've got to be sending out 10 DMs every single day, outbound, outbound, outbound. And you're looking for clients. You're looking for those needles in the haystack in Facebook groups and all these other areas. So you're seeking out clients one-to-one. So 1 ounce of your energy is like very little result, because you might need to talk to 10 people and you might not even get anybody who wants to get on a call with you or explore the opportunity of working with you. You might not even get any responses whatsoever. Whereas what we're teaching with borrowed audiences is that if you are able to partner with a gym, if you're able to partner with a doctor, if you're able to get, podcast guesting appearances, if you're able to partner with physiotherapists, physical therapists, any complementary practitioners, micro influencers, and you're able to get access to their audience, then all of a sudden that relationship with the doctor, the gym owner, the audience owner, that relationship you get to nurture. So 1 ounce of your energy, and all of a sudden you get access to all of their people. And not just access to them, but you also get this transfer of trust that happens because people in their audience trust them. And so when they introduce you, automatically you get some degree of trust transferred to you. And that trust is really important when it comes to people selecting a coach who they want to work with. So if you would absolutely love to be able to put less energy and less grind into getting leads, to do it in a much more clean way where the leads are coming inbound, to get a lot more leads for your effort, then I think borrowed audiences is definitely something you want to get on your radar and really improve your skills at. We talked about on the first week of this series, the skills that need to be in place in order for you to succeed with this. But something that is really important, one of the most foundational elements that we see, is that coaches don't even get started with this. And they don't get started with this because they're afraid or they don't believe in themselves and what value they can bring to somebody else. So this is where I want to turn it over to Kate, because Kate has been coaching all of our amazing VIP mentorship clients through this process of finding borrowed audiences. We've been seeing people getting podcasts, guesting appearances booking, seminars and workshops and challenges at gyms. So many amazing opportunities have been coming up, but Kate's been seeing all this resistance and fear coming up. So Kate, I'm curious just to hear you address what you've been seeing from some coaches and how you might help them kind of shift their mindset so that they feel more comfortable utilizing this strategy.
Oh, yeah. So the resistance I see coming up is imposter syndrome at its finest. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're thinking, yeah, it would be awesome if I got a doctor to refer me business. I'd love to be on a fitness podcast. I would love to have my massage therapist, my acupuncturist refer coaches over to me. I'd love to have all inbound leads instead of feeling like I'm on that grind of constantly starting new conversations every day. I'd love that, but who am I to do that? I don't know what I would offer them. I'm kind of just starting out, or I've only been coaching for 3 months, 6 months, a year. I don't have millions of client testimonials. Why would they pick me over any other coach? Why would they refer to me? Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like a conversation you're having with yourself in your own head? Coach, come on. You're special because you're you. There is no secret sauce to this business. The secret sauce is you because of what your experience is, how you care for your client, what your offer is, and like how you're going to guide the client through a journey that achieves their single biggest result, that completely life transforming transformation that makes you the last nutrition coach that they ever have to hire, the diet that they never have to go on again. So I want you to just zoom out for a minute here and think, who would my audience, who would my followers really benefit from hearing from? And start there, because then you can start in a place of seeking out people who would just be able to benefit your audience. Let the law of reciprocity do its thing. Create a great, networking relationship with someone, and the rest can truly be history. That person's grateful for you for exposing them to your audience. You're giving your audience something that they really want. And you're building trust by association because you've had somebody really great come in and talk. The other thing is you really need to just think of, take yourself out of it. Okay. Since I know that you're thinking a lot about yourself and like, what do I have to give? Take yourself out of it completely and just think of, how could I really help this person? How could I help this doctor? Are they getting a lot of patients that are diabetic and that they're just feeling like, God, this isn't why I became a doctor. It wasn't just to write medical prescriptions for people all day, every day. What I'd really love to do as a doctor is see clients get well, right? Tap into that memory of why they started their profession, and then just be that, like, help them be the hero in their client's journey. So, hey, look at, like, why did you become a doctor in the first place? Tell me about why you started your practice. Get to know them, be curious about them, and then find out how you could best support them. How could I support you in your business? How could I support your clients on their journey? Yeah, I'm working with a ton of people who are diabetic, and I would really love to help refer them to someone who understands them, who could help them, get off all these medications. That's not what I want for them. Amazing. Then do just that and create a journey that's based on you becoming the hero, or you helping that doctor be a hero in their clients' lives. It really is just as simple as that. There needs to be no fear or resistance around sending those outbound messages, to get on a podcast, to start a collaboration. None of that, because you are just reaching out from the energy of, how could I be of service to this person? Could I expose them to my audience? Could I give something of value to their audience? You're following them, you're being engaged audience member. You're thinking like, gosh, I see a lot of people asking this person about like what the best protein powder is, or how they get protein in their diet if they're a vegetarian. And I know this person's really struggling to answer. Or maybe you work with a doctor who tends to serve a lot of vegetarian clients who aren't getting enough protein, and that's your jam. Look, think about what you want to be known for, your area of specialty, and how you can be of service. And I actually just want you to take a beat and like write down all of the ways that you could be of service to others. Come at it with that energy, a loving service where you can lead with service, because you are the leader here. No more resistance. Just rise up.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head with that, like coming from the energy of service. Because yeah, if you can really come at it instead of, how am I going to get clients out of this? Because I can tell you, with borrowed audiences, you will get clients as a result of helping other people. If you can create a win-win-win where, the audience owner wins, their audience wins, then you're just going to win as a result. You don't really there's things that you have to do to make sure that you win. You need to make sure that you have, a good call to action when you do eventually get in front of people's audiences, which somebody asked a great question about. You do have to make sure that you've got, the right offer for people when you do have the opportunity. Once those inbound requests start coming in, you got to make sure that you're actually serving people so that when they go back to the person they heard about you from, they go, wow, that experience working with Matt was so awesome. Kate, thank you so much for bringing him into my world. It's completely changed my life. And I think the other thing to address here is, I see a lot of people hesitating on borrowed audiences because of this lack mindset. They're like, oh man, like if somebody decides, like if I bring a, personal trainer into my audience and I share them with them, then what if they go work with that personal trainer and then they can't afford to work with me anymore? They want to work with a personal trainer, and now I lose clients and I lose money, and lack stories. And that type of story is what's going to keep you completely stuck, because one, you're not looking at the positives and the upsides, and two, coming at it from that energy, of course you're going to stumble at the starting gate. You're never going to get started. Got to come at it with this abundance mindset. Like, wow, imagine if, I don't do personal training. Imagine if one of my clients was able to work with both me and this personal trainer. And now all of a sudden the results they're getting are multiplied, they're magnified. And now when I'm sharing this social proof, when I'm sharing their transformation story, it's that much better, Or, they bring so much gratitude to me for bringing this personal trainer who they love into their world. And now they have two people who they feel, they can really trust, who are helping them move towards their transformation in their corner. Like, how grateful are those people going to be? So I think those are some really important things to address here. Now, Kate, there was one question that I think, because we're going to jump into Q&A now. So one of the questions that was submitted, I want to ask to you, Kate, and it kind of follows off the back of this. So the question here was, how can I get other influencers to say yes to me when I'm still a new coach?
Yeah. So again, you want to reach out in how could I give them an opportunity to be exposed to my audience? You may think like, well, I only have a few hundred followers or my audience is really small. It doesn't matter. Listen, and I know Matt is very similar in this. Whenever I'm asked to speak on a podcast or on a summit or whatever it is, I always say yes, because it's great exposure and it's great practice. And successful business owners are like that. Like they say yes often because they recognize the opportunities, right? Like, okay, listen, if you're going after somebody with like millions and millions of followers, or like you're really trying to get Kim Kardashian on your thing, maybe we should just introduce you to Steve Sims because he can make things happen. But that's not the type of influencer that you're going to go after. You do want to have like a relatively matchable audience, even when you are a brand new coach. So somebody with maybe like 10,000 or something like that, followers or an audience to reach out to. And I think that's when we're talking about somebody that's like on social media to reach out to. But again, like, what can you do for them? How could you like reach out and say, hey, this is something that we're doing. You're going to see us doing this exact same thing over the next several months of the people that we are bringing into this community, because we know you guys can benefit and we're super excited about what that can do for you. And we're networking with them and they're excited to help us further our mission to help nutrition coaches. So like, again, like it's just establishing that relationship. Hey, first name, you're socially supporting them, right? You're on their pages, you're on like their Google reviews, whatever it is, but you're socially supporting them for, several days or weeks. And then you can reach out and say, hey, first name, I'm really loving what you're putting out there. I actually really resonated with this post, podcast, blog, whatever it was. I really resonated with this. And you shared it on your stories, and I shared it with my followers. Do you do interviews? I would love to interview you live. We can do a Facebook Live or something to my followers. I think they could really benefit from you talking about this topic. It is as simple as that. It is as simple as that. And you know what? If they say no, it doesn't matter, because your business does not rise and fall with one influencer or one potential borrowed audience saying yes or no. It doesn't. So just look at people who you could who your audience would benefit from and reach out to them authentically. Make sure it's somebody that you are, again, socially supporting, that you're engaging with. Those out of the blue invites are the weirdest ones. It's like getting a cold DM. It's like being on the other side of a cold DM, right? So make sure that you are engaging with them first and that you send out a request, short, sweet, simple, meaningful, with a solid invitation.
Yeah, I think that solid invitation is a really important one, because I've had not that I'm like a massive influencer or anything, but like I do have people reach out to me to have me on their podcast or something like that. And they never actually like send me a calendar link or suggest days or times. It's just, like they do the first part well. They're like, "Hey, I've been following you since you were a nutrition coach. I've really it's been awesome to see the transformation that you made. I love what you were talking about with this post. I was wondering if you'd be open to sharing that with my audience." And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then they're like, "Awesome, thanks so much." I'm like, is the onus now on me to like schedule me onto your podcast? Like, tell me what you want me to do. I'm busy. Like, I'm going to forget about this in 5 minutes. And if you don't follow up, I'm never going to remember again. So, it is definitely important to, be able to, instead of thinking, oh no, if I send them a calendar link or suggest a date and time, I'm being assertive. And then, they're going to think, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. No, it's like, tell an influencer what's up. See if it works for them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You just reminded me of something and I want to actually tell you guys about this now because it's easy to like kind of fall victim of this. Don't pay to be on podcasts. Don't pay to be on podcasts. Like I get these a lot. It's like a cold DM like, "Oh, you could do this and we won't even charge you for it." I'm like, "Of course you wouldn't charge me for it. I wouldn't pay for it anyways." And then they'll hook me up. They're like, "Oh, well, you can book a call with this person and then see if it's the right fit." I'm like, "Dude, you reached out to me and told me how I'm such a good fit for your podcast and you want me to do this. And then you want me to like meet this person and watch this video first." And it was all like this, they're using it as a funnel, right? For me to like pay to be on other people's podcasts. I was like, oh my God, no. Anyway, I'm telling you this because it happens. Don't do it. Don't pay to be on a podcast.
Yeah. Oh man. I forget what it is. It's like some big fitness expo. They invited me to be a speaker on their virtual summit. And then I filled out this like long application that they had. And then afterwards they're like, "Oh, would Beyond Macros like to do a sponsorship?" And I was like, "No, I wouldn't." And then they cut me from the speaking list. I was like, "You dirty dogs. That's ridiculous. Thanks for wasting my time." So yeah, don't fall for that type of stuff either. You don't have to pay for speaking opportunities. Just, reciprocate value.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've hit this one pretty well. Hopefully whoever asked that, you got some good info there. If you are watching now and you have any questions or you want anything clarified, again, just drop it in the comments and, we'll answer your question. Or we know sometimes, you don't know what you don't know. So if there's anything you want to hear more about, you can just be like, "Hey, can you talk more about that?" Or, "Can you say a little bit more about that?" And we're happy to go a little bit deeper. So let's move on to the next question. This one's a little bit, I think we're going to have the common coaching answer, but what's the best type of borrowed audience for lead generation? I'm just going to straight up say it depends. But, Kate, do you want to take this one away?
Well, again, it really is like who is your soulmate client and what are they really interested in? So when I think of like creating a networking community of people, right? I would actually just listen to what do my clients ask me for the most? Like what are they asking for referrals for? Like if I'm working with somebody that's like local, like, "Hey, do you have a good massage therapist? Do you know somebody that I could go to for acupuncture? Do you know somebody that specializes in XYZ?" Like these are great things to keep in mind because you can start to build like a local referral network. And if you could create a group of like maybe 4 or 5 like really strong referral partners, that is truly all you need to have constant, great, pre-qualified, pre-sold almost referrals into your business and your business grows. If you are somebody who works with other moms of small children, there are tons of parenting coaches out there. Look it up, like tons. I actually just did an introduction to one for one of our coaches who's going to do a borrowed audience exchange with this person. But you want to look at, like who talks about, who's like a parenting coach, who talks about swim safety for children, who talks about like natural solutions for like natural like diapers and diaper cream and things like that. Like who would be somebody that your audience would be really interested in talking with, and who has a similar audience to yours but does something different. So everyone that I just threw out there, the parenting coach, the person that talks about like swim safety for kids, the person that does like natural solutions, natural products for children. All of those people have a very similar audience as you, moms of young kids. None of them do what you do. That's an amazing type of borrowed audience that would result in, some immediate friends, followers, people that are interested in talking to you about what you do as a nutrition coach for moms of young kids.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. And I'll talk kind of philosophically here. I think there's a few things that I look for when trying to find a match for a borrowed audience. One is, do we have the same audience? Like, is their ideal client, is their ideal audience member the same as mine? And it's like, okay, that needs to be in place. Like Kate just talked about, do you have the same audience? And then from there, I'm looking for, does what we offer, is it complementary? Do we complement each other? Do we fill in holes in the other's offering? And if so, then that's a really amazing one as well. And then the next thing that I'm looking for is trust level. I don't care about vanity metrics. I don't care, how many likes they have on their Facebook page or, how many followers they have on Instagram. I want to know how much trust do they have with their audience. And there's a lot of different ways that you can actually suss that out. But the thing is, if you recognize that a big part of borrowed audiences is this transfer of trust that occurs, you want to find an audience where they're going to be people who, when they hear you on the podcast or when, the referral happens, there's so much trust that they're just hot and ready, ready to jump into your program. So those are some of the things that I look for when it comes to borrowed audiences. And if any of you have done our Nutrition Business Booster and you did a bit of market research, you might have some pretty good clues there, when it comes to where is your ideal client going for their information? Who are they following? Like, who do they trust? So you might actually have some pretty good breadcrumbs there to follow if you went through that program.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. We actually just did something similar in our monthly content creation workshop for our VIP mentorship coaches. We just sat and we just sat as a group and just started brainstorming a list of potential borrowed audiences, like who has a complimentary service, who would my audience really love to hear from? What types of people are they asking about? What types of questions are they asking that I can't answer? That I really can't answer, that's outside of my realm of expertise. And we just came up with a huge list of potential borrowed audiences, and that list is growing. It's truly endless.
Oopsies. I think I froze my computer. But we have actually a question from Naira who asked it live. So hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to pull up your question because I think this is a fantastic one.
Yeah.
So the question was, how long does it take to build relationships with individuals to approach them for this borrowed audience strategy so it doesn't come across as a cold DM? This is a great question. Yeah.
It really is. And I mean, look, the relationship that you're building and nurturing is ongoing. I mean, I actually just shared today with one of our coaches, Deval, who is just freaking killing it with borrowed audiences. He continues to nurture those relationships. So it's not like he just did this webinar or this talk in one of the communities and then was like, great, cool, thanks, and left. He's continuing to nurture that relationship so that he's invited back. He continues to socially support the people whose audience he's borrowing. I would say that you really need to make sure that you are authentically engaging, right? You're not coming off as a creeper, liking like every single one of their past posts and then commenting on all of them. But I would say maybe about like 5 to 7 posts that you're authentically engaging on, right? Like, or again, if you've looked at their business stuff on Google and you've looked over, and if you can't really give them like a Google review if you've never heard of them before, but you can seek them out on where they are on social. If it's a YouTube channel, comment on there. YouTube, their stuff is coming out like less often. Podcast, maybe once a week. So if it's somebody that you're looking at on like YouTube or a podcast, I think you can actually do it after even like one like authentic engagement on like their YouTube video or on their podcast. You can give them some additional likes, but I think that actually gives them, you can reach out and say, hey, like, I've been listening to your podcast, really loved the episode on blah, blah, blah. That's the exact information that I would love to share with my community. Curious, do you do Facebook Lives? I'd love to have you on mine. Truly as simple as that. But yeah, otherwise I think what would you say, Matt? I think 7 length of engagement. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I look at it as a spectrum, because the thing is, my first borrowed audience, it took me years because my first real borrowed audience was the gym that I was working at. And it started out where I was a member of the gym, I was a paying member of the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I became a coach at the gym. And then by kind of cutting my teeth as a coach at the gym, then all of a sudden I was getting access to the gym members as the nutrition expert. And then, I had it was like one of the most productive borrowed audiences for me that there was. And we have lots of coaches who are, let's say CrossFit coaches and nutrition coaches. And so it takes hours because, they coach classes, they do PTs, they show up and they train, but those are things that they would be doing anyway, and that's building up trust with the gym owner. And then the gym owner is more willing to push their stuff out. So there are some instances where, it's not as necessarily linear. And then the other thing is, if you are doing outreach to somebody who you don't have a prior relationship with, well, consider what it takes to build a relationship outside of business. What does that look like? How long is the dance? That's definitely an important thing to consider. But one of the lessons that we have in our VIP mentorship, we had a good friend, Christine McAllister, come in, and she's amazing when it comes to getting podcast appearances booked in. And she had given us an amazing template that we share with our clients that they can use for outreach to book in podcasts. And to be honest, it's like a one-shot email. It's a one-shot email, and you do a bunch of other things after the email is sent out. Like you might review their podcast, you might, do some things to kind of boost them, add them as a friend on Facebook, all these things surrounding that email. But, it's kind of a one-shot email. So it does a little bit depend on what type of audience you're going after. And I really do believe that, going after the low-hanging fruit first in every area of your business, but, here included, going after low-hanging fruit first makes sense. Do you have any friends? Or do you, is your doctor someone who you can talk to? Is the gym that you go to one where they'd be open to you doing a seminar or a workshop or something like that? So you can start with a low-hanging fruit, and you don't necessarily have to just go for the moon and go for somebody who you have absolutely no pre-existing relationship with. And if you go for the low-hanging fruit first, that allows you to take the slow approach to building that relationship with your kind of pie in the sky. I want to be on that person's audience list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And the other thing that I love that you brought up, Kate, is the ongoing relationship. It's an ongoing relationship building process. It's like you guys, if you've been in here for a little while, seen our show, it's like we brought in Robin Beer not so long ago. Robin had me speak on one of his panels and to do a video for his YouTube channel with him on an interview. And then we're having Robin back. And guess what? Kate and I are going to be speaking on another of Robin's panels. So it's one of those where it's like, we're giving each other lots of opportunities to get in front of each other's audience because, we know, like, and trust each other. And it's an ongoing relationship. I think that's really important to consider.
Yep, exactly.
Ooh, here's another good question. Sorry, just muting so everyone doesn't get the weed whacker. So here is the other question. If you're inviting them onto your Facebook Live, how do you end up expanding your audience? Are you waiting around for them to reciprocate and invite you onto theirs? That's a great question as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll actually take this one away. So one thing is you can ask people if they'd be willing to promote the live to their audience. You can say, hey, if you want to let your audience know that we'll be, doing this talk, here's a graphic that I made for you, or here's a post template. Whenever somebody invites me on to their podcast and they literally give me the things to promote, then I'll promote it. Or, if they share a snippet of it in their stories and tag me, I will then reshare it to my stories. Or if they share something and tag me, I will then reshare it. So you do want to make sure that you have, a little bit of a strategy in place to potentially get them to share it with their audience. If they don't, that's perfectly fine. It's their audience. You invited them in, no strings attached. But if they, if you say, hey, if you'd like to, you can promote this, and you literally just like spoon feed it to them, then, you'll get access to their audience as well. But if that doesn't happen, that's okay too, because again, you're forming a relationship and they may never reciprocate. But if you get into the habit of doing these things and building these relationships, maybe they refer you to somebody who might, give you access to the audience. Maybe they never do. But sometimes it's like the energy that we put out into the world, it doesn't come back to us from the same source. So it's just one of those things where, when you get in the habit of doing this and having that mindset of like abundance, and that this isn't necessarily transactional, and this isn't necessarily something that detracts from me because I shared my audience, good things happen. And we've seen that over and over and over.
Definitely. And remember too, that this is having somebody on your Facebook Live or Instagram Live, whatever it is actually pieces of content for you, right? And it's helping you continue to build trust with your audience because you are showing up and you are giving something of value. Because here's the thing, like even if Robin didn't have us on his panel, we'd still bring him in here to talk to all of you because we love what he has to say. And we know when he comes back in here, he's going to deliver just like he always does. And you're going to benefit from that. So because we want you to benefit, we're happy to have him in, regardless of whether or not he has us on his panels or not. Right? So like if you can bring somebody in, it creates more engagement on your post. More eyeballs will be watching you because you're bringing cool, interesting people that they're interested in hearing about onto your content and onto your page.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So I think we have time for one more question. And I'm going to ask this one to you, Kate, because we talked about this a little bit before we hopped on. But the last question that we'll go with today is, what's a good call to action when you do get speaking opportunities?
Yeah. So if you're kind of just brand new, you've got nothing going, you don't have a lot of like resources or things like that built up, you can totally tell people to follow you on Instagram, to connect with you on Facebook, because this is where you share some amazing tips, resources, amazing tips, resources, tons and tons of value, all the time, nonstop. And they're welcome to connect with you there. But it's also really good if you have some sort of a free guide or something, like we call them micro commitments, in place, to bring people, to give them an exchange, right? Like, oh yeah, like, well, I've created this amazing energy tracker, and reach out to me, tell me where you heard me, that you heard me on this podcast, and I'd be happy to send it over. This is actually something that we do a lot for our coaches in our mentorship programs. Is we help them create micro commitments. We help them create those guides. We just did a bunch for the past 2 months. So if you're feeling stuck or something like that, those are some really great things that you can give. Those freebies, these are actually great ways to get in front of borrowed audiences too. Hey, I created this amazing guide and I'd love to share it with your community. If they're interested, happy to give it away. And then that has a call to action and all of your social information on there to stay in touch with you.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that we help our clients with when it comes to borrowed audiences is figuring out what are some of the topics that you can talk about that are valuable and you can kind of mold to the different audiences you might get access to. So it's like you've got a few different topics that you might be able to talk about when you're, pitching the opportunity to speak. And then you usually want to make the call to action match up with the content that you just delivered. So, if, for example, we had somebody recently do a challenge And the main thing about the challenge was that it was like, okay, I'm going to show you, we're going to start with food tracking, meticulous food tracking. And then you can, try macros. If you don't like macros, let's try, hand portion sizing. And so they started people out, and then the call to action at the end was like, hey, I've got, all of this workbook that has everything that we did in this challenge. And if you want, we can also do a next steps consultation, a no sales pitch next step consultation. You might be speaking on a very specific topic. Kate, for example, has written 3 keto recipe books. It's like she might be able to, jump on and be like, hey, I can give you a PDF copy of one of my recipe books, something like that. If she's talking about, family friendly keto cooking, something like that. And then she can get their email and then, point them to her Facebook group or whatever. We got to make sure that, the call to action leads people into an actual ecosystem or like a lead onboarding process. Like you should have an onboarding process for your coaching, but you should also have an onboarding process for your marketing. Like how does somebody come into your world, enter the ecosystem that you've kind of created and, be a successful member that moves towards becoming a client. So I think that's really important too, is match the call to action to the content as best you can. And bring them into the place that's going to be most effective for you to onboard them into your world.
And, again, like Deval does this really well. I mean, like he had his call to action after he did his super value packed, simple, but super value packed, like nutrition presentation. His call to action was to join him for no strings attached call. It's how he booked more than 70 calls. And it matched up perfectly with what he talked about during his presentation, that like, hey, like I'm giving you all this stuff. And if you can take this today and implement it, amazing. It will change your life. But if you want to go a step further, or you feel like you still have some questions about how this is going to work for your life, I would love to chat with you. I'm going to drop a link where you can book in a 15-minute, no strings attached call to see how it might benefit you from taking this a few steps further. Link is in the comments.
Awesome.
Just as simple as that.
Yeah. Man, that's a good opportunity. I might have to book one in myself.
All right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hopefully that was valuable for you. Yeah, Naira says, thanks for the detailed responses. Appreciate you answering my questions. We appreciate your questions. We can tell that they were well thought out and that you're really thinking about how do I make this work? So that's all we got for you today. Next week, we'll be back with an interview with Tiffany, who has had a lot of success with borrowed audiences. So we'll be diving into what the process has been like for her, how she's made it work, what the results have been, so you can get another really tangible example of how this works. Again, Kate's going to drop a link if you want to book in a call with her to do a little planning session. So just check for that in the comments, both on Facebook, and I'll drop it on YouTube as well. All right, everybody. Much love. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Peace.